Hello, curious minds. The story begins in the small city of Poughkeepsie in the early 1990s. Wendy Myers, a 30-year-old mother of two, was known for her warm smile and caring nature. She lived a relatively quiet life, working as a waitress and taking care of her children. Wendy was well-liked in the community, and her sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through Poughkeepsie. It was in 1996 that Wendy went missing. She was last seen leaving her job at a local restaurant one evening, heading home to her two young children. When she failed to return, her family and friends became frantic with worry. They reported her disappearance to the police, launching an investigation that would eventually lead to the doorstep of Kendall Francois. Francois was an imposing figure, standing at over 6 feet tall and weighing around 300 pounds. He had a reputation for being reclusive and strange, which made him an eerie presence in the neighborhood. When the police received a tip that Wendy Myers might have been seen near Francois's residence, they decided to pay him a visit. Upon entering his home, the officers were immediately struck by a foul stench that permeated the air. The source of the odor became apparent when they discovered a gruesome sight in the house: the decomposing bodies of several women, including Wendy Myers. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community and confirmed their worst fears. They had a serial killer living among them. Kendall Francois was promptly arrested, and the investigation into his horrific crimes intensified. It was revealed that he had lured Wendy and several other women to his home, where he had held them captive before brutally murdering them. Francois had managed to keep his crimes hidden for years, even as he lived in close proximity to his victims' families. As the trial unfolded, Kendall Francois displayed a chilling lack of remorse. He confessed to the murders of 8 women and described the gruesome details of their deaths in a disturbingly matter-of-fact manner. His cold demeanor sent shivers down the spines of those in the courtroom. Kendall Francois grew up in a troubled environment, marred by family dysfunction and a strained relationship with his parents. His childhood was far from ideal, and he often faced emotional and physical abuse within his own home. These early experiences would have a lasting impact on his psyche. Despite his troubled upbringing, Francois showed promise academically. He attended Poughkeepsie High School and graduated in 1989. However, any hopes of a stable and fulfilling future were soon dashed as he descended into a world of darkness and depravity. By the early 1990s, Kendall Francois had moved into a residential neighborhood in Poughkeepsie. His outward appearance was unremarkable. He was known for his imposing stature, standing over 6 feet tall and weighing around 300 pounds. Yet beneath this facade of normalcy, he harbored a chilling compulsion that would lead him to commit a series of gruesome murders. Francois's first known victim was Wendy Myers, a 30-year-old mother of 2. Her disappearance in 1996 would ultimately lead to the unraveling of his crimes. He lured women to his home, where he held them captive before brutally ending their lives. The stench of decomposition in his residence finally drew the attention of law enforcement. In 1998, when police entered Francois's home, they discovered the horrifying reality of his crimes: the remains of multiple women, including Wendy Myers, in various stages of decomposition. This grim scene shocked the community and confirmed their worst fears. Kendall Francois was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder. During his trial, he displayed a chilling lack of remorse, confessing to the murders of 8 women and describing the gruesome details in a disturbingly matter-of-fact manner. His cold demeanor and the sheer brutality of his crimes sent shockwaves through the courtroom. In 2000, Kendall Francois was convicted of his heinous crimes and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His reign of terror had come to an end, but the scars he left on the community and the families of his victims would endure indefinitely. Francois spent the rest of his life in prison, serving his sentence at the Sullivan Correctional Facility in New York. He became known as one of the most notorious serial killers in the state's history, a man who had managed to hide his monstrous side behind a mask of normalcy. Kendall Francois, the serial killer from Poughkeepsie, New York, is indeed a chilling figure in criminal history. Are some interesting facts about him. Francois stood at over 6 feet tall and weighed around 300 pounds. His size and physical presence often made him an intimidating figure. He grew up in a dysfunctional family marked by abuse and neglect. These early experiences would contribute to his later criminal behavior. Despite his troubled upbringing, Kendall Francois graduated from Poughkeepsie High School in 1989, showing academic potential before his life took a dark turn. Francois managed to maintain an outwardly normal appearance, concealing his horrific crimes from friends. neighbors, and even law enforcement for an extended period. He lived in a residential neighborhood in Poughkeepsie, which made it all the more shocking when the gruesome truth of his crimes was discovered in his home. The stench of decomposition emanating from his residence ultimately led to his arrest, as it drew the attention of the police. During his trial, Kendall Francois confessed to the murders of 8 women in a matter-of-fact manner. His lack of remorse and detachment from the brutality of his crimes left a lasting impact on those involved in the case. In 2000, Francois was convicted of his murders and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He spent the remainder of his life incarcerated. Kendall Francois is remembered as one of the most infamous serial killers in New York's history, leaving a dark and haunting legacy that continues to fascinate and horrify those who study criminal psychology and true crime. Thank you for joining us on this journey through a disturbing part of criminal history. Stay safe and stay curious.